I've been having a conversation with a client recently, a client who prefers to remain anonymous, so I can't tell you what the company is. But we've been talking about staff engagement because this company had done an annual survey, as a lot of companies do, and what they discovered was that in one particular area, won't surprise you to know that it was the IT department, that they had quite a high percentage of people who came out as looking like they were disengaged. And what the client said to me was, these people are actively disengaged, which means that they turn up to staff meetings and they complain about things and they criticise the policy and strategy and they have a lot to say for themselves. They're actively disengaged. And I accepted that at the first conversation we had. And then a little later on I thought, actually, if somebody's doing that, they're still engaged. So maybe it would be a better description to say that these people are disaffected rather than disengaged. Because I think if somebody's disengaged, that means they're just not interested. So they wouldn't be showing up to staff meetings and they wouldn't be analysing what's going on with the company strategies and policies and so on. They wouldn't have an opinion about things. So I went back to my client and we talked some more about this. And yes, there is definitely a case to be made that says these people are not disengaged, they're disaffected. However, the staff engagement survey that this company uses a definition of engagement that means that these people are definitely not engaged. Because what we realised when we looked at it was that there is a premise inherent in the survey that suggests that for somebody to be regarded as engaged, they have to be completely on board with what's going on in the company. So in order to score as an engaged individual, they would need to believe that what the board is doing is correct. They would need to be on board with all of the latest strategies and policies. They would be actively contributing to latest initiatives and so on. And so my client and I stopped and reviewed this. And we thought to ourselves, well, is this actually sensible? Because what that means is that if you had 100% staff engagement, if you had everybody in the organisation who was engaged by that definition, there would be nobody to challenge what was going on. In effect, you'd have a company full of yes men or yes people. So is that really what we want? Now, I suspect that it isn't what any company wants. I think it's useful for any organisation to have some people who will think and analyse and not necessarily assume that everything that their company is doing is absolutely the right and the best thing. I think it's good to have somebody who's a bit cynical, a bit sceptical, who will say, oh really? Are we actually going to do that? Or somebody who will say, so why are we doing that then? What's the reason behind it? Or do you really believe that's going to work? So I think it might be worth taking some time out to consider this for yourself. Okay, so maybe you're not designing engagement initiatives for a whole organisation. Maybe you are. But for the majority of people who I believe might be actually listening to this, you're probably more interested in what goes on in your own team or your own division. So what I'd encourage you to do is have a look out for the people who are not necessarily engaged in the way that you might like them to be, because perhaps they are critical, perhaps they ask difficult questions, perhaps they're not completely on board with what's going on. And just ask yourself the question, what can they contribute that the people who really believe in everything are not contributing? Because I think it's really helpful from time to time to have somebody who will challenge you and will get you to justify why you're doing what you're doing. Because if nobody ever does that, how can you be certain that you're on the right path?